Hey, stress level 100 here. Before we get started, I apologize if my commentary isn't the best. I still haven't recovered from being sick after a little under 2 months, and I wanted to get this video out sooner rather than later. But hey, at least I have a good audio setup now. Today we're talking about the acting male. I'd like to preface this all and say that I used to like a lot of the Act-Man's videos long before what I believed to be his decline in overall authenticity. After the whole Starfield debacle, I sided with heel versus babyface, whom I'll refer to as, when I talk about that a bit later. But before that, we need to talk about the whole Quantum TV saga, as I believe this to be a vital chapter in this story.
One more thing. If you go out of your way to harass anyone I feature, you're fucking lame. Anyone who does that does not have my support.
So play nice. After the Act-Man's video Elden Ring Hot Takes that featured Quantum TV, a sleazy television YouTuber now infamous for this whole beef, Quantum TV responded to this Elden Ring video with his own, and when the Act-Man tried to do the same, he got copyright striked for using his content, even though it was clearly under the guise of fair use, as the video was quite transformative. Because of all the false copyright claims, people ran to the Act-Man's aid on Twitter. Yes, this was Jack Dorsey's Twitter at the time. I'm not kidding when I say just about everyone with some sort of internet presence agreed that Quantum TV was absolutely deplorable. Now, some of you may be wondering at this moment, hey, wait a minute, didn't you say you were a free speech advocate in that politics and games video? What I left out mentioning my stance in passing are the few exceptions to free speech. Threats of violence are genuinely wishing death upon people. And that's not to mention that he called his mother over internet beef. I mean, how much of a f***ing loser do you gotta be?
Yes, is this son? I'm calling on behalf of Quantum TV. Your son is essentially sending a bunch of people after my business. He's making threats of being able to cancel my content based off of tweets and posts that he's getting from other people. The damages that he's causing are quite substantial in monetary value. I'm a bigot, I'm a homophobe, I'm committing penalty under perjury.
That is correct.
With your copyright takedown attempt failed, in your twisted mind, you thought you had no other option but to threaten my family in an attempt to silence me, and it almost worked. But you just had to brag about it. You had to talk about it publicly. In the same videos you bragged about doxing my mother, you also made comments like,
one day, maybe you guys might actually get someone killed. And I mean that. Hopefully, through your actions, one day you don't get somebody killed.
I reached out to your mother to convey the severity of real-world harm. My copyright abuse video was uploaded at 10:46 a.m. Quantum TV called my mother 40 minutes after it was uploaded. There was no hesitation.
There's much more to all this, but this isn't a video about Quantum TV. I have a few problems for the Act-Man and how he handled this whole beef, which are minimal in comparison to what I'm gonna bring up later, and I'll excuse him on it for the most part. But this was the peak of my support for the Act-Man over the years, and I want to talk about this a bit because it was like this little itch in the back of my mind watching these videos again, and looking at old tweets for research purposes. Now, I want to be clear, I don't mean to dredge up drama just to paint this rough image of the Act-Man. I very much agree with him at the time of this whole thing, and to this day, looking back on it. But during the whole thing, he used language like this. Now, I'm definitely on board with most of this post, like the part where he says, nobody deserves to be condemned under false charges, even Quantum. He needs to be removed from the platform. There's severe corruption happening on YouTube. Absolutely. But then he is like, I continue to put my family in jeopardy by fighting for the justice that I believe in. Please carry the torch of revolution in my absence. Then he says copyright abuse must not be tolerated. That much is true, but then hate speech must not be tolerated. Oh boy. We'll get to that in a moment. And he says threatening children must not be tolerated. This is in reference to a kid on YouTube called Mischief that made videos about this whole situation and its developments that was also under scrutiny by Quantum. This is all because he heavily criticized Quantum TV. So I guess I hope that doesn't happen to me. And he finalizes his tweet saying, justice must be served. A dragon never yields. Before we go any further, because of what I'm about to mention, I don't care if you're the homiest of homosexuals. That's your business and I don't need it in mine. I mean, as a Christian, I believe it to be sinful, and I would hope for you not to be in the same vein as I would hope for someone to not be a drunk, as I believe both are harmful to the spirit. But if you're not worried about your eternal suffering and don't call yourself a gay Christian, I'm chill with that. My problem lies with people, and this goes for Christians and for people who identify as LGBT, whatever the fuck, forcing other people to conform to the standards of their own ideology. This is why I love America, and I'm not afraid to say that. We can disagree so strongly, and under the guise of free speech, we can voice our own opinions and coexist. And I hope you don't mind this little tangent. This is just important for what I'm about to talk about. The idea of hate speech is completely antithetical to the idea of free speech, because ultimately, who defines what hate speech is? I could be walking down the street past some guy and say, "Damn bro, what the fuck, your shoes look raggedy as hell." And it turns out I used the wrong pronouns calling that thing a bro and served 9 years of jail time. I don't mean for my channel to be too political, but I just see so many figures in games just push for these radical viewpoints like transsexualism, and I have a deep desire to call them out of their bullshit. And don't get me wrong either. If there's a Christian gaming YouTuber doing the same sort of thing, encroaching on the hobby, trying to force the industry to conform to their own beliefs, I would certainly talk about that too. Wait, why the fuck is there a picture of Melanie Mac here? Whew, anyway, what were we talking about? Right, the Act Man. In regard to the idea of the Act Man using cancel culture, in my belief, cancel culture is generally just another word for the group of idiots calling for censorship, and that's not what's happening here, in my view at least. But there's some language here often used by that vocal minority on Twitter for sure, and during his reply videos, he'll often hone in on Quantum's self-proclaimed anti-gay views, as opposed to focusing solely on the actual crimes that Quantum is committing by claiming content like this. But by no stretch of the imagination do I agree with Quantum. I find his words to be spiteful and nasty, and I think it's a fucking joke that he calls himself a Christian while spreading as much violent language as he has, which I do not and will not say lightly. But I don't think there's a problem with criticizing a game for any reason, but that's not Quantum TV. Yeah, telling Elden Ring players to commit seppuku is not criticism of a video game, it's just pure spite. Like I said, there's a lot more to this, and I recommend this video here if you want to hear more about this whole drama. But skipping forward to the conclusion, after months of legal disputes and adding Team YouTube on Twitter, which was seemingly the only way to get their attention, the Act Man eventually came out on top and Quantum's channel was suspended. But one of the people on Twitter to come to his aid was Az from the channel Heel vs Babyface.
There is nothing I love more. Taking my headphones off, fuck that. Bethesda, there is nothing I love more than to fire up a brand new RPG, lose myself.
Sorry, did you want to get immersed in our world? Yeah, well, guess what?
Fucking pronouns! I love nothing more than to be dragged out at every fucking conceivable opportunity so you can fucking current day us. Current fucking day! Fuck off!
As is someone who's really passionate about games like myself, I mean, obviously. And just a heads up, we're gonna have to discuss the politics at play with this whole discussion surrounding the game. And I think Az in his follow-up video best explains why right off the jump.
Man has opinion about video game. Internet goes absolutely nuclear crazy about opinion on video game. Is this actually about opinion on video game? No, this has nothing to do with opinion on video game. This has everything to do with going after the far left sacred cow of gender ideology.
But firstly, and more importantly to me, I want to say this. Putting aside all pandering to demographics that have no interest in your games, and as an average enjoyer of sci-fi and Skyrim, this game fucking blows, man.
Is she dead?
Am I glad to meet whoever you two are? Looks like we're all in one piece. Any day you walk away from, right?
Yeah, well, one of us certainly walked away from it.
Only heard stories.
We've heard stories too.
The game was so buggy that even the dedicated modders that made stuff for previous Bethesda games quit making mods to try and improve it.
But what did the Act Man do? What did he do? He shielded it!
He went tweeting about Az, who openly spoke out about the game's political push, mocking him, saying,
Gorilla-shaped man on the verge of crying because Starfield lets you pick pronouns at the start of a game, and it's never brought up again. Somebody shoot this guy with a bear tranquilizer. I think he's gonna attack someone.
Yeah, this is where my support of the Act Man over the years started to dwindle. Az quickly owned this gorilla-shaped man quote with his nickname, the Silverback, on the streams that he does with his friend Young Rippa, dubbed simply Rippa in the Silverback, which I have a modicum of respect for. But there's a few other things I want to point out to the people who may be on the fence with this whole thing. To offer a bit more context, the rant doesn't even start with the pronouns on screen at the beginning of the game, as the Act Man states in his tweet.
What? He, him? if you want to play pick your pronouns, then you should have an option to not enter pronouns.
So right off the bat, he's being dishonest to get his point across. It's a whole 6 hours of streaming the most boring demographic pandering piece of shit game. Pile that on with this ham-fisted virtue signaling of what is typically far-left politics at the forefront of the entertainment he's watched transpire for years now, and it was enough for him to start ranting during what I believe to be his last stream of the game. Given the fact this went mega viral, I'm not going to play the whole clip here. If you just look up Starfield pronouns rant, you'll be able to find it. You might be asking yourself right now, given the fact I've had this question in the back of my mind for a while now, why are you making this long ass video about the Act-Man? As I already stated, I've watched and supported him for years. He's one of those creators I used to look at to see if a game was good or not before I buy it. Of course, under the assumption that he was being honest about how he felt about any particular game. And after this whole situation, it really does seem to me that it was all an act, pun intended. I think it's obvious to many he's just about as much of a shill for Bethesda as Cypher PK is to Fortnite and Epic Games at large. It also doesn't help that he made replies like this.
Oi! Ill versus Babyface is great. Just a passionate person speaking his mind like many other creators out there. The Act-Man replies, he's great at making people that criticize pronoun use look like a bunch of shit-eating cavemen. I'd love to see pronouns in every game moving forward for no other reason than spite and to watch this guy's world melt. My goodness me, I sure hope that doesn't come back later to bite you in the ass.
For a while, the Act-Man and Az took shots at each other in some tweets of theirs. Now, X at the time, if memory serves me right. So, X post, I guess. Whatever. Eventually, the Act-Man reached out to Mahler, who is a friend of Az's for years, to supposedly try and talk it out. Basically, he wanted to still upload the Starfield video of his that had clips mocking Az Starfield rant, and get on Az's good side. Az promptly shut down the idea of them having some public debate or private chat on the matter, given the fact that the Act-Man leaked these DMs with Mahler and was clearly not coming from a place of sincerity and understanding. So because he really wanted to upload this video with Az Starfield rant, more than making amends apparently, for shits and gigs admittedly, and because it's more in line with the videos I made about the guy who gave Metal Gear Rising a 1 out of 10, I'd like to analyze this portion of the Starfield hot takes video he made.
There you are.
Customizing your character in a brand new space RPG,
And all of a sudden,
you're woke.
you didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this. Yet there it is.
Oh god, just skip to the heel versus babyface part.
Attention. We are now at DEFCON 1. Security lockdown active.
Oh no. Oh sweet Jesus.
I love nothing more than to be dragged out.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's true. Starfield gives you the option to select 3 sets of pronouns in the character creator.
What? How can you do this?
This alone has caused mass hysteria.
This alone has caused mass hysteria? You mind telling me what this is? You know what, I'll tell you what this is. This is some shit that you would see in Skyrim. That game's like 15 years old now, and this is how they're spawning NPCs. Not only is their game design outdated, it's also plentiful with bugs.
A lot of people have finally unlocked Ultra Instinct mode and gone full ham calling Starfield woke.
I'm sorry, do you have a better word or reasoning to describe why they made it so everywhere you go, in the whole Starfield universe, the demographic is predominantly, and I'll use their words, racially diverse? I don't know, I think purposely going out of your way to exclude a certain race is pretty racist. Call that a hot take.
You should have an option to not enter pronouns.
Yes, agreed 100%. The fact that they force you to do it is the problem. The fact that they force you to do it is the problem. The fact that they force you to do it is the problem. They're forcing you to do it.
Objection!
Show how it's optional. Okay, I will show how it's optional again if you want me to. Look, we can go through this again. There's me, king of pronouns. Confirm. Yep, didn't have to pick my pronouns there.
Take that!
Oh no you don't. Sneaky sneaky. You may not be forced to press this button to change your pronouns in the character creator, but if it's not a big deal, as you say, then why were modders banned for uploading mods that delete it?
Texas mods reportedly banning Starfield mods that remove pronouns. Yes, a website dedicated to mods is choosing not to host mods because it goes against their ideology. It goes against their cult.
How do you be a conservative when you are a living Wojak?
Oh my fucking god, I forgot he featured Vosh. In case you don't know, this is a guy who advocates for COD points or cheese pizza and has images of horsecock and lolicon on his computer. And he's framing this clip like he agrees with Flash.
What the hell no?
I've heard enough. Fuck it, skip to the end of this chapter. Anyway, I think Az is justified in feeling the way he does about the game and the whole situation, really. I just wanted to go through those few things real quick. Though I didn't buy it, I know some people who did that were severely disappointed by the game. And if there's one thing I want to call out amongst gaming content creators that I previously supported, it's when they lie about a game's quality for any given reason. But where's Starfield now, and how's pronouns in games holding up, you may be asking?
Everybody made fun of Az. Everybody hated Az. But he was right. And now everybody is agreeing with him. You want to know what's really funny about this? He won. It doesn't matter what you think media literacy is. It doesn't matter. Because ultimately, people support him now. And now his opinion is so pervasive that companies are avoiding it. And the government has even made it mandatory for people to not include pronouns in their emails. Complete bald victory. And oh, and by the way, Starfield's f***ing dead.
Let me be clear, I don't hate the Act-Man after all the Starfield stuff, but the situation really just made me see him as a petty liar and engagement farmer. Hate is a strong word, and I try my best not to pivot it towards individuals, but instead what I perceive to be their poor choice of actions or words. Like when he sent out this silverback gorilla tweet. Even though I think that's a stupid thing to post, I'm not gonna hate the Act-Man for that, if that makes any sense. Also, I know for you guys, I just said it seems like it was all an act, but upon further consideration and editorial, I don't think that's entirely true. I still don't trust his judgment of a game's quality, but I'd like to rephrase that a bit. After the situation, to be very blunt, admittedly, I think he's either one, a complete retard that can't discern quality for a game like Starfield, made by a publisher that he adores as much as Bethesda, as he loves their previous game so much that he can't see past it, which I think is moderately likely. I won't say it's true or false, because frankly I don't know. Or two, he's just a guy who loves games and shares his love with the internet. I'm just a hater. That may be true on his channel. Refuse to watch an Act-Man video now to find out, but now more than ever on his X account, he posts downright delusional stuff about political figures such as Elon Musk. I'm not this Elon superfan myself, but I think if you're gonna say some radically and solely untrue things about any political figure on an account that you founded with gaming content, to me is very jarring and, quite frankly, lame as fuck. Like how he says that Brazil's insane level of censorship is somehow because of Elon Musk, when the sole reason he claims to support Donald Trump is because he's a free speech advocate. What more do you need to know? And for the record, I greatly appreciate how Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers handles this. He very much tries to keep political topics off his channel unless it somehow relates or affects the entertainment industry in any way, shape, or form. And that very much so is how I wish to handle politics on this channel. As I know most people, myself included, use games as a form of escapism. But instead of posting to his G&G account, and Jeremy opts to share his own political opinions on his D-Day Cobra channel that I tune into every now and then because I think he gives good, concise commentary on news and the like. But after the Starfield stuff, the Act-Man would continue to make his regular content, supposedly, most notably appearing on the Unsubscribed podcast a few months ago now, where he vaguely discussed the Quantum TV situation.
My channel was demonetized, so I was like a little bit
I was like, welcome to the fucking club, buddy.
What did you do? Oh, you never heard?
No, what'd you do?
It's a long, fun story. It basically ended with me making some satirical tweets about what had happened to me from this other content creator. He had called my mom, harassed her, basically told her to stop, told her to tell me to stop making videos about him.
You want us to beat the shit out of him?
The drama's over.
We should probably find out who the creator is first.
But basically, he did a bunch of shit and didn't get punished for it, so he started posting satirical tweets about I'm gonna start this new series called Doxing Adventures with Act-Man. In it, I'll be doxing and harassing the employees at YouTube. So I made these satirical tweets because this guy had been doing this stuff. But they took it as
I remember that actually, yeah.
Yeah, they took it as legitimate threats, even though they had me on speed dial.
He gave an equally as short synopsis when he talked about his hot take videos, when asked what kind of content he makes.
What's your content consists of, mostly these days, though?
Game reviews is always the bread and butter. It takes me a fucking millennium to get them out, but also just kind of talking about the industry, what's going on in it, any controversies. People love good controversy. They love controversy and comedy, so if there's good stuff to make fun of, some bad hot takes out there around gaming, from people who are misinformed, that's always People love that shit. Sometimes, you know, people like rail against games when and they call it woke when there's nothing really in it that makes the game worse. And that's kind of where I always stand, is like, if you can point to this thing and say like, okay, this is how it makes the game worse, and this is how it could have been done better, and this is how it took me out of the game, then that's what
Last of Us 2.
I wonder who he's talking about there. Anyway, he then started, talking about the Communist Manifesto?
You what?
I knew he was a communist! For real though, he made some jokes about how dog shit that book is, and did the same with Mein Kampf thereafter, leading them on, making them think he was into communism, which I found humorous. They also talked about some cool World War II history I didn't know about, and nerded out about Fallout and Red Dead Redemption. But he also said during the podcast, you shouldn't let words affect you too much, which I thought was pretty funny considering the whole Starfield thing was kicked off all because he got butthurt by what Az had to say. Did I mention I don't like his Starfield take yet? Anyway, honest to God, after watching the podcast, he seems like a chill enough guy in person, but on his X account he paints out an entirely different conduct, as he very much expresses the kind of views that appease that vocal minority on X that act all fake offended. Like if Brandon were to say something about how he likes his Cybertruck, I don't think the Act Man would start quaking in his boots and just begin to virtue signal right then and there about how evil and horrible Elon Musk is, or that he should like burn his Tesla because that's the new NPC download, I guess. Look, I know everyone's gonna conduct themselves differently on the internet, of course, but from the outside looking in, he seems to do this to a huge degree for what I can only guess is a form of validation from these people. So yeah, the Act Man's a lame-ass motherfucker. He now in my eyes has zero integrity with his reviews as far as I know, and there's probably nothing he can do to change my view on him. He's got 3 AM tweets about how Elon Musk, quite possibly the richest man on the earth, owner of Tesla and SpaceX, has no friends and is retarded, his stupid beef with another creator that I respect the work of, so much so that it inspired this channel, among other factors of course, and it seems as though he goes wherever the wind blows. Oh yeah, and I think the same of Asmongold in that regard, with how he talked about the Starfield stuff before and after Starfield's fallen its player base. But the Act Man seems a little less chronically online and somehow a lot more lame. Honestly, at this point, I'll probably stop talking about him aside from responding to the comments on this video. As for future content, because I'm burnt out on culture war stuff right now, aside from maybe a rant about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which might get into that a little, I'm thinking about streaming a no-kill run of Red Dead Redemption's epilogue, and making that a series inspired by Isaiah's Goodest Boy in the West series. At some point, I just gotta learn how to stream first. Instead of making a review of Lollipop Chainsaw Repop because it's a bit late now and I lost interest in making that video, and instead of that Is Red Dead Redemption Woke video because of reasons already stated, I'm gonna work on my top 5 favorite games of all time list. And thank you all for watching. Would mean a lot on the road to 100 subs if you were to support the channel. However, bye for now.